Hello, friends and family. Today's just been a really rainy day here in Houston. We went for a little ride, get something to eat, but I've been reading the comments and I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to all of you, but one of the comments that's sticking out to us the most is, when did he start having symptoms of his cancer?
Okay, so what I noticed is that I started getting a little green discharge coming in my eye. I thought it was just an eye infection because 2 years ago I had kind of the same thing. I had green discharge coming out of my eye. I went to the doctor. They gave me some over-the-counter medication to take. So I kind of did the same thing on this one. So it didn't go away, and slowly but surely I started seeing like a little bump. And this is around the time that we had got COVID. I thought it was a pimple at first. And then I thought maybe it was another eye infection. Well, it started getting a little bit bigger, after a while. And so the day after my birthday, but we had made an appointment to talk to the doctor the following day, but my wife didn't want to wait. She didn't want to wait anymore.
The reason why I was wanting to go to the hospital so fast and not wait for an appointment was because he had been hiding this from me for quite some time. He had nosebleeds and coughing up blood with pus.
Slight nosebleeds.
And but this was happening almost every day.
So I went ahead and went to the emergency room. As soon as I got there, they took me straight to the back. The actual ER doctor took out a machine and kind of did a quick scan to see if they were able to drain it. Well, when he scanned it, he said that there was no kind of liquid in there, that it was like a hard mass. So he referred me to a doctor. So when we get there, I tell him what's going on, how long I've been having the discharge out of my eye. So he starts feeling around. He goes, there's something wrong. There's something different about this. I've never seen, I've seen it, but not in that specific spot. Said, does it hurt? I said, he started touching with it. He's like, does it hurt? I said, no. He goes, okay. He goes, what we're going to do is we're going to put some stuff, we're going to numb your nose, and we're going to stick a camera up there. I'm like, I'm kind of freaking out already. I'm like, what's going on? So he goes to the other room, gets some spray, numbs my nose, sticks a camera up in there. He's like,
And he also had two more assistants go in there with him because this was something he wasn't familiar with. When they did stick the cameras in, they couldn't see past that mass that he had on his nose. And the other side, they could see a little bit more. Once for a second appointment, he kind of sat down and told us, "Look, this is what I think it is."
before what?
Before the biopsy.
And he had a friend
That he didn't tell anything to about what was going on, what he thought it was do a biopsy. And so we did the biopsy. We want to have a second opinion because he wasn't that kind of doctor. It was cancer. We sent it to MD Anderson.
And mind you, the doctor went above and beyond what
his normal what he normally does
practices.
Yeah. And like he said, he never seen anything like it. And what he was researching, he's like, there's very, very, very few instances where people had this certain kind of cancer. It's so very rare. I recommend you to go into MD Anderson.
And mind you, at this time, we didn't know what the heck MD Anderson was. I never heard of the hospital before. My wife never heard of the hospital before. It was just, I thought, okay, we got it in time. That's it.
And what we feel so blessed about is we know that a lot of people, like, it takes months or even a year before they get to be seen by the professional cancer doctors. But we got in as soon as he sent in the paperwork. We got in immediately.
And I didn't know what to think. I was, you know, crying. I was nervous. The worst thing you think is like, am I gonna die? You're thinking all this stuff in your head. So when I finally get all that done, we finally make a trip over here. We borrow my sister-in-law's car. We come over here, and the first thing to do is we look. Before we came over here, we looked up the doctor that's gonna talk to me. Well, we found out that the doctor that see me the first day is like the main doctor of this cancer. He's a main doctor with the nasal and the head doctor. I mean, he's like the head doctor at this hospital.
The head and neck doctor, babe.
Yes. And we looked him up. He had a couple of YouTube conferences on there. And so I'm like, okay, this doctor's like a big time doctor. So we finally went to go see him. Nicest person in the world. He talked to us, like I said, in English. He wasn't using these big old uh, uh, hospital or doctor, you know, words. He told me, it's like, okay, we think you have this cancer, or we can think it might be another type of cancer, but we want, no matter what it is, it's a rare cancer. And, we want to help you fight this. And the first thing I asked him was, is it bad? He's like, it's kind of bad, but we got it in time, we think.
Because they at this point they didn't really know what kind of cancer it was. They had an idea, but his cancer, when they were looking at it, it had two different signs. It could be this. It could be one kind of cancer that's a nose cancer, another kind of nose cancer. Like, but they weren't. This didn't come out the same as the other two.
And they even said I could have had two different kind of cancers.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know. So all that day is I had, I believe it was 5 different doctors I talked to that day. One was, like I said, the main doctor, which is Dr. Hannah, which that man is such a nice person. He came in there with a nice attitude, everything. And then I think I talked to my oncologist after that. The first one was about an hour and a half, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about all my treatments, whatever, everything we're going to do. And then we went to go see him. We were talking to him. He's like, you know what? I'm sorry, but we're going to do another biopsy because the one doctor that did it, it wasn't, there's a
It wasn't a big
possibility.
enough sample.
Yeah. There's a possibility that it still can be just a cancer stain that's not alive. It's just moving around. That's probably why your eye got bigger, I mean, your nose. So he said, before we do all this stuff, we want to make sure you have, we want to do a biopsy. He goes, we can do one right now. But me, I was kind of nervous because I was like, you know what? The last one I got, I bled a lot. He was like, well, you know what? Because I had a doctor appointment, then I had one day off, and I had another doctor appointment. Because I had talked to almost like, what, 10 doctors
Mm-hmm.
in 2 days. So he's like, you know what? I'm open tomorrow. We can get you tomorrow. Do a biopsy. I'm like, okay.
He got a bunch of surgeons.
So I just kept on continuing with the rest of my appointments. And then the next morning we went to the hospital. And mind you, I don't know if we have any pictures, but this is my first time ever getting put under. So I was nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I started crying. I've never had dental work. I've never had anything. I've never been put under anesthesia in my whole life. So I didn't know what to expect. So they came, they got me, and my veins are hard to find. So they had a hard time finding my vein. So they finally found it, gave me my medication. They're willing me off. I'm crying. And I'm like, I'm freaking out because, I don't know.
And we have a video of his experience with that first appointments.
Yeah, we'll shoot you a little video of that.
Yeah.
And so then I come out of anesthesia. Luckily, I wasn't bleeding. Thank God. We went home, and then the next day we had more appointments. And then that's when they called me back, and then that's when they told me I actually have cancer, right? So, and what's kind of weird is every time I've gotten a biopsy, the tumor got peed off and grew more.
Yeah, it was the tumor. It was really aggressive, and the more they messed with it, the larger it grew.
It grew a lot from the first biopsy to the when it healed to the second biopsy. It just grew so big. It's like
And I'll insert some pictures right here for you.
after that, I was coming every couple of months to re-talk to a doctors, and finally they started getting it down to when my treatments. We're gonna
Start chemo.
start chemo. We're gonna give you 4 times. Was it 4 or 3?
We're gonna give you 3 rounds.
3 rounds,
3 cycles with 3 rounds.
and each time was 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I had to come for twice. Then they found out. Then they did some more scans and said, "Look, I'm sorry,
It's not working.
that's not working." It worked a little bit, but it didn't work like they thought it was going to work. They thought I was going to be shrink real bad and then let it dissolve by itself.
And it did a little bit over his eye, but then it moved itself over
Yeah,
from
like,
this part of
you
his
can't
face
catch me, whatever.
over to the other side. Is when you started noticing a growth coming from the other side of your nose.
So we're like, look, we're gonna, me and your other team, we're gonna have to get together. We're gonna have to plan something out for your surgery. I'm like, okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut you right here and then cut you here. We're gonna pull this back and this and that. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna look scary.